Hi, in this video I'm going to demonstrate how to fix a remote that has juice spilt on it or something has gotten inside that has made the remote not work properly. I also noticed that when I press the buttons it actually makes a sticky sound. It's like a chick, chick. So even if I wipe the front, some of that juice has actually gotten inside. So I'm going to walk you through how to repair this. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is open the remote. Alright, so I'm removing the battery cover and removing the batteries. Now in this case there are 3 screws here. Sometimes the battery cover is actually covering a screw. So always remove the battery cover and the cover. In this case I only have the 3 screws, so I'm going to now remove them. Right, now that I've removed the 3 screws, I'm just checking along the body if there's another screw. And in this case there are no other screws. So what I want to do now is open the sides of the remote. Now ideally it's best to use proper plastic pry tools so you don't damage the plastic of the remote. But since most people do not have such tools, I'm going to just use a screwdriver and my fingers. Now what I'm going to do is I'm turning the remote on the side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hold quite close to the edge of the screwdriver and insert the screwdriver just on the edge here. And notice that it immediately started to open. As you can see, I almost bend it open like that. And you might notice that it is already opening. Now one of the reasons why I hold the screwdriver right close to the edge is because once it opens, I do not want that to happen because that will damage the circuit board inside. So by holding it close to the edge, if it does slip in, my fingers are here to hit the brakes. As you can see, it's opening, and what I do is I just take my screwdriver along the edge and I do that same motion of lifting at certain points. Now very important is I'm not just going to pull it apart because it might snap in the middle. I need to still follow it with my finger all the way, lifting it one by one. And now I go to the other side and I do the same thing. Right, so it is now separating. Pull the top from the bottom. Okay, just inspecting the board here, I can see that there is some residue of something that was sticky. Right, there definitely was something that was sticky here, and as you can see, if I put my finger there, notice how it is even lifting up. Look at that. And unfortunately some of that has actually got on this side as well, and it's also sticky. Now in order to clean it, I use a rubbing alcohol. This is a rubbing alcohol. It is a 90% alcohol. It is not a hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer is incorrect because it has glycol in, and that will leave a residue. And you can take an old toothbrush and just clean the surface. Using a rag, I gently wipe the residue or the sticky stuff off. I'm not going to be rough because there are some surface mount electronics here. For example, if I'm too vigorous, I might lift some of these circuits off, and some remotes have LEDs soldered onto the board, so just be careful not to be too vigorous. Right, now I need to clean this side as well. I'm also going to use the rubbing alcohol. On some remotes, there is some carbon that is placed on these pads here. So if I'm too rough, I will eventually wipe off the carbon and the remote will not work properly. So the point is, I'm not going to be rough here and I'm not going to over wipe it. I'm just wiping enough to remove the residue of the sticky substance. Now, just a note, it's best not to use a cloth over here because little fine hairs and dust gets on the surface. It's better if you can take the toothbrush and just wipe it like that. If yours is very dirty, you can just remove this completely, and you might need to clean in between the spaces over here and also clean this side. In this case, a toothbrush is very handy to get in between the buttons. Very important, I'm not too rough here because I do not want to scratch off the signage on the front of the remote. I'm still just using the rubbing alcohol. Right, I'm just putting the rubber section back onto the front of the remote. If you've got a blower, it's the best way to dry the remote. You might find some buttons do not want to come through. It's easier if you just use a screwdriver and just assist them from the other side. Once the surfaces are clean and dry, try not to touch them because oily residue on fingers will then reduce the contact between that side and that side. Now I just have to put it back together. Right, in this case, the battery terminals over here need to be fed into here. I just make sure that it is seated correctly. In this case, I can see all the terminals are now seated correctly. Now I just need to close the two sides together. Now in this case, this remote has this bead on the side, so I just have to insert the bead back in. And now I can close this side. Right, now I just squeeze all the sides together. Right, just check that everything is closed and tight. There you can see the seam is correct and the remote will now work as new. Thanks for watching and cheers.